Welcome back, Ascension family. I'm sharing channeled messages from my second book, The Chosen One. And in this second chapter are all stories about my past life healings. The scribed messages hold a light frequency to heal your life as well. I'm Patrizia, an Ascension healer, Christ consciousness teacher, etheric surgeon, and cosmic light worker. I recommend that you just sit and just close your eyes and just allow the story and the words to wash over you and the light frequency to transmit through your whole body to receive the healing. This is the final story in chapter 2. The story is titled Murder for Greed. There is a violent struggle and he has his hands wrapped around your neck. Physically, he dominates your strength, and his desperation and anger at winning fuels him further. You are in a room up in a tower of the castle. There are stone pieces and a table. The area is minimally furnished apart from a few wooden items, a chair, mantle, etc. The castle is huge, with many rooms and corridors, and it's likely the servants and father is in the main wing. Father had not been well for some time, and he'd lost his passion for living and for succeeding on a material level. He had always been furiously competitive, analytical, and power-driven. He built a family estate and wealth, not to mention status and power, over a 20-year period. He came from quite humble beginnings, but knew the right people and executed dealings at the right time. My mother was the absolute mirror. She drove him further with her emotions and her enormous desire to be living the high society lifestyle, adorned in jewels, wearing the finest French lace and Asian silks. There was an understanding between them where they may not have had necessarily much passion left for each other, but certainly shared a passion for power, money, and status. Mother died of a pneumonia over 18 months ago, and since then, my father lost his interest in most things. The castle became a cold place to live in. He finally admitted that he'd missed her so, and that her presence filled the rooms. Now, with his life partner gone, there was no one to accompany him, no one to please nor impress, nor to argue with. His reason to live was suddenly at the forefront of his attention. Being one of two sons, but myself the younger, I was always more attentive to my father's needs as a family member and to contribute and learn. Whilst we were wealthy, my father and mother had nothing handed to them. It was hard work and persistence, and a fair dose of attitude and education. The circles in which they socialized in were of a high regard, in power and wealth, and they loved it. He'd always say, your hands have the ability to shape and make whatever you want in your life, but to exceed your skill and reach further, you will need to use a greater tool. It is your ability to think, analyze, and outwit your oppositions and opponents that will pave your growth to success. Talk less, watch more. Words of wisdom, no doubt, but he was a prime example of this philosophy. I listened and learned from him. My brother, on the other hand, had an inferiority complex. He'd always felt entitled and acted aggressively and dominantly, especially toward me. His position within the family had a clear advantage, as he was the eldest, and family responsibility and power had an order about it. But instead of honoring this and learning as much as he could from father, he was gallivanting with loose women, consuming copious amounts of liquor, nursing ill feelings, selfishness, and chauvinism. My father knew well that I was most like him. I was calm, reflective, and decisive. and was creative. He knew it came natural and I nurture growth rather than squander as my brother did. Father's failing health and disinterest in life led him to speak with me about being left in charge of the family estate when he dies. I was rather surprised, being that there is a usual age order to follow. But he was making a rational business decision, not a blinded one. Little did I realize at the same time, my brother had been delving in so much women and liquor since mother died. He was becoming even more angry, depressed, and irrational. He was clearly possessed by evil. He was abusive, unreliable, bitter, and failing. There was nothing I'd recognized of his former self. Father handed me a waxed, sealed document outlining the details of the will, putting me 100% in charge with a clause that I would do my very best to care for my brother and his health. However, failing that, I'm not to squander or waste excessive amounts of time and money if he's not willing to redeem himself. Rather, I was to allow him the journey of collapse if necessary. I was shocked, but Father said, I'm not willing to carry him anymore, and if we continue to accept his destructive path, we denounce self-respect and he'll destroy everything I've built. Once we lose ourselves in blood, our emotions will see no end and will stop at nothing to save him. It is not that way, to give that power, that we become lost in the darkness to rescue another, no matter who it is. Meanwhile, there was a servant, a maid, who had been listening to our conversation from behind the door. She had been having a secret affair with my brother for 6 months and was hoping to improve her life and status by capturing his relentless heart and marrying him. She also worked as a spy and quickly notified my father's intentions and everything she'd heard to my brother. A few hours later, he came back to the castle in a drunken rage and instigated an attack on me. He reeked of liquor, and I remember seeing the red, evil fury in his eyes. As I struggled to free my breath, I realized I was losing power. And the more I struggled, the more energy and breathlessness it took from me. I couldn't fight anymore. My last glimpse was seeing the maid approach the door behind him, wide-eyed. She was waiting for my death, so as to stage some sort of alternate crime scene. They had not pre-planned this. It was spontaneous, ridiculous, and desperate. My brother was drunk and stupid, and now the two of them would have to set up a false crime scene, one that would convince Father that an intruder had murdered me. This is crazy, I thought, but I couldn't care anymore. I wanted to cough, but it wouldn't come out. I was losing the ability to think. It was all white. I surrender. That is all. And healing has taken place. Amen. And this concludes our second chapter with all these beautiful stories. In the descriptions below, I'll pop in some links to my weekly meditation groups and to also my website. Please go and have a look and browse, and I will continue now diving deep into chapter 3, which is all about genetic healings. I'll look forward, so please share and subscribe, and I will look forward to seeing you all soon. Namaste.